here on Infinite Screen Time. Thank you so much for joining me on my weekly Fireside chats. How is everyone doing out there? Happy Thanksgiving. What? Yeah, no, it's not Thanksgiving yet in your neck of the woods. Here in Asia, where the American holiday of Thanksgiving, yeah, it's in full effect. So we are in Thursday, it's Thanksgiving, and it's kind of a weird experience actually to have Thanksgiving when you're not in America as an American, because not everybody's doing it, if you know what I mean, right? And then you have to like try to procure a turkey, which is not something that everybody eats in Asia. And it's like a week-long event of hunting and gathering all of the various foods that we need in order to completely fulfill our American destiny of gluttony on Thanksgiving. So, and of course, many schools don't have off on the following Friday. So we are going to be doing Thanksgiving on a Saturday here in Hong Kong. And I am getting my turkey today, and we'll be stuffing that thing for the next few days and hopefully being able to dig into all of that goodness. And so, but today here we are doing a Facebook Live on the Infinite Screen Time channel. And I have an amazing topic and such an incredible host today. We are going to be talking about breathwork and screen time. And my guest is Liza Rosen, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her later, but she is a professional certified coach and a breathwork trainer, and she provides impactful professional transformational coaching and breathwork training to help you achieve what? Growth, well-being, and just optimal breathing. And we're going to learn so much about it because I think we all feel like we all know how to breathe, right? And we're going to find out that there's actually, the errors that we make in our breathing, it's really limiting so much in our life. And so, but before we get to that, I am going to tell you why you're here. You're here on the Infinite Screen Time channel, and you're like, who is this lady? My name is Arcadia Kim. I am the founder and president of Infinite Screen Time, whose mission is to dispel the negative connotations of screen time and recast it into something really great about connecting, about positivity, and about turning that screen time into family time. Because you know what? Our kids are probably a whole lot better at us, at this technology than we are. And, just being able to kind of open up these conversations and cast them into healthy relationships with technology, it's really stretching us as parents. And so that's what we're about. I'm about building a community of coaches, child advocates, and technologists who can help us all in our journey in building and raising screen smart kids. I'm a mom of 3. I'm living here in Hong Kong. Those are my 3 kids. I'm also the ex-chief operating officer of Electronic Arts Los Angeles. I had over a decade experience working in the video game industry. I'm a gamer myself. I worked on The Sims, Lord of the Rings, Medal of Honor, Command and Conquer. I'm also excited to announce I will soon be a TEDx Tin Hau women speaker in a matter of a few weeks. And so I'm preparing for that. It's very, very exciting. But my ultimate mission here is to remove that guilt, shame, and fear that we have around screen time. And try to build these healthy relationships with screen time, because you know what? We all need our technology. But you can just sort of think of me as your squad mate in screen time. I am the lady that you can ask any of your screen time questions to when it concerns you and your family and being healthy, safe, and positive. Okay, but here, the reason why we have gathered here for this hour is to talk about breathwork and screen time. And I want to introduce you to my friend, Liza Rosen, this is why Hong Kong is so friggin' awesome. It is a melting pot of so many different cultures and families. And it's this place, this magical place that attracts adventure-seeking families. And I met Liza at the bus stop of our school. And our little bus stop, I mean, we had myself, Korean American, we had some Americans, we had mainland Chinese, we had Swedish, we had Belgian. I mean, actually, Liza, I don't even know what kind of bucket to put her in because she like checks off so many of them. But we had French, British, etc. And it was like every morning we would come to drop off our kids and we would start chit-chatting about where we're from and our experiences. And what I started to realize is that we have such a diverse experience, and our approach to parenting and to technology was really informed by those various values and the place that we came from, you know? And so as a Korean coming from a highly connected city like Seoul, it was vastly different from, you know, another family who was living from the, you know, came from this like French countryside. It was totally different, and it had a big impact on their relationship with technology. And I realized we need to have these kind of conversations. And then, of course, when I heard about Liza and her interest in breath work, it just totally blew my mind. And she comes at this breath work from not only a host of experience about like trying to be the better version of herself, but also from kind of the stress of her previous work job. And I'm not going to get too much into the details of that because you've got to hear her story for yourself. She is a native multicultural enthusiast. These are her words, having lived in Sweden, Italy, Belgium, and now Hong Kong. She's a qualified certified professional coach, ICF EMCC standards. I'm learning so much about what all these acronyms mean recently, and a certified breathwork BREATHE TM trainer. She's actually one of the first, I think she's actually the first in Hong Kong. She specializes in well-being, including stress management, work-life balance, burnout prevention, and we're going to hear a little bit more about her personal experience with that, and recovery, and back to work and more. You can read about some of her published works in SASSY Hong Kong, which we all love. It's our ubiquitous online channel, online resource for and everything Hong Kong. She's delivered large group workshops at reputable health studios like Pure Yoga. We all know Pure and love Pure here in Hong Kong, as well as corporate organizations. She's collaborated with leading health clinics in Hong Kong, and she builds on 15 years of multinational corporate experience, including in finance and human resources. My girl, Liza, she can speak 4 languages fluently: English, French, Swedish, and Italian. It's amazing. And she's got a true passion for empowering people to grow and achieve their best selves. I have learned so much from my little bus stop, you know, kind of conversations and our many hikes that we do here in Hong Kong, and just our coffee, you know, sort of getting together and stuff. And you're going to hear about her beautiful family too, which I kind of just want to, you know, like kidnap her youngest. Anyway, I said this now live online. I can't take it back. Okay. So if something, yeah, no, it was me. She's a mom of 3, loves outdoor power walking, hiking, and friends. And she loves that vinyasa yoga. I once had to suffer through it with her and I could not keep up. So I wanted to introduce Liza. I think you can turn on your camera now and I will stop my share. Liza, it's so great to have you.
Hi there. Hi, Arcadia.
I know we were just talking about all of the various things that we need to do in order to like figure out all of this technology, right? It's incredible.
Exactly. Yeah, and you've got a great client in front of you. As I said, like I'm so non-techie, so I'm so sorry if I'll ask them pretty clueless questions and things.
Well, you know, that's the thing that I was talking about even at our bus stop, right? We have so many people who have such different experiences with their technology. Exactly. And you're the first one to say, you're kind of a Luddite, like you don't really understand it. It's confusing to you, right? And I think that that's totally cool. And that's like how, I mean, you're one of those families, like every weekend is packed with venturing out and like discovering a different part of Hong Kong, right? And
correct.
Yeah, and that is part of your family values, and that helps inform your relationship with technology. And I think that that's a really important perspective in understanding this. But today we are going to be talking about breathwork. And so tell me about how you came to breathwork. What's your journey? And I think people would really love to hear about that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to thank you, Arcadia, for that great introduction. Like, I think I'm going to take with you. I'm just going to, you'll be my pitch. I'll just take you with me everywhere I go, and I'll be like, listen to her. She says this really well.
Well, when it comes from the heart,
thank you.
Yeah, when it comes from the heart, that's how it comes out, right? And so that's
good. And I also know if my little baby disappears, I know who it is now, right? So I've got a little 5-month-old baby, Victor, at home, and
made in Hong Kong.
Made in Hong Kong, yep. And he's pretty cute, and we had a coffee together with Arcadia last week, and she nearly grabbed him away from me. Yeah, no, lovely.
He's precious.
Great.
Yeah, we did peer pressure you quite a lot at the bus stop to have another.
I know you did. I know. So we said, there needs to be. We need to have the.
And you have
the
two
Hong Kong baby.
Yeah, and you have 2 other children. Their ages are and names.
So yes, we have. So I have 2 older kids. So I've got Edouard, who's 12 and a half years old, and then I've got Estelle, who's 9, and then little Victor, who's 5, turning 6 months old soon.
Yeah.
So I kind of cover them all the ages, the whole band.
Amazing.
With all the challenges and all the fun and everything that goes with it.
And all the different stages of parenting.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. I think I have starting to get a good experience. Yeah, it's good. But like you also have 3 kids, Arcadia.
Yes.
Right.
And my experience has been that there's like a generation gap in between each one of them, right? In the way that they sort of see the world and interact with their technology. But so tell me, tell me about your journey and how you got to your work with breathworks particularly.
Yes. Yeah. That usually a lot of people ask me that question, because they're like, okay, so I get it. You were like 15 years in corporate. You're a coach, like professional certified coach. Okay. But what about this breathwork stuff? Like, how did that happen? Like, where does that come in? Right. So I do have a personal journey, actually. And I usually like to say that my journey with breathwork kind of unofficially began around like 7-8 years ago, when I suffered a massive major burnout while working in the corporate world, which actually led to a full year of work incapacity. So I was actually off work, like on medical leave, for a whole year. And this year was just packed with obviously exhaustion, anxiety, and medication, and just kind of trying to figure out what was going on in my life, what was going on with me, as a kind of very, high performing, high perfectionist individual. Suddenly, your body just stops working. Your body just doesn't follow you anymore. And you're like, whoa, this is scary. Like, what do I do now? So it was a very complicated year. Exhaustion, anxiety, medication. And at the time I was supported, of course, professionally, by this great psychologist, counselor, who actually integrated a little bit of breath work into her more conventional sort of standard counseling practice, right? And for me, this was a turning point. This whole breath work stuff. Just it was actually the first time that I started focusing on my own breathing, and I started understanding just how badly I was breathing, and probably had been breathing like forever since I was a child, because breathing, like we do it unconsciously. We breathe unconsciously around 25,000 times per day. We don't think about it, and so very often people are like, well, you teach me to breathe, like why would I do that? Why would I hire you? Why I'm breathing, I'm alive, so why do I need to focus on this, right? So anyway, so this for me was a turning point, just understanding my own breathing habits, my own bad breathing habits, and understanding the power of the breath in healing and in dealing with a variety of health conditions, and obviously stress and anxiety being one of them, and being obviously quite relevant for me.
Right.
This was like my starting point, my own sort of personal journey to breath work. But at the time, obviously, I didn't even know that breath work was a thing, that it was something you could do. I didn't even know that it, like, you could Google it, like it was like an actual job. So I was kind of like experimenting a little by myself. And somehow I always, during, you know, tough moments, you know, stress, grief, or whatever, I would always kind of like turn to my breathing. And I had a few techniques that I could go to, but again, nothing official, you know. And I was like always kind of going around telling my family, my kids especially, like, oh, you know, you have to breathe in the right way, and this is what you're supposed to do, and all that. And then a few years ago, so we were in Hong Kong a few years ago, and it was actually the day after New Year's Eve. So it was like the 1st of January. We were sitting on the beach, as you do in Hong Kong, because it's so nice, hot, warm weather. Yeah. And my husband had bought like the weekend edition of, I think it was the Financial Times. Yeah. Right. And in this weekend edition, there was this huge article on breathwork, like breathwork schools, and how this thing like breathwork was just kind of gaining a lot of becoming a quite, you know, a hype thing. Like corporates were turning to it, and you know, organizations and so forth. And so he's like reading this thing, and then he's like on the beach, he's like, you know, I think, Lisa, you know, you should read this, because he knows like I'm into that sort of stuff, right? So he's like, just read this. I think you'll find it interesting. And this article literally just blew me off my feet. Wow. I read it and I was like, I had like adrenaline rushing through me. I was like, it was kind of like as if all the dots were just bringing, everything was like bringing like was brought together. Yeah. Everything that I'd been sort of unofficially trying and testing and believing in for like 8 years. Finally, I had an official article telling me, but this is what you've actually been doing all along. It's called breathwork, you know? And anyway, so in this article, they were kind of sharing a few of the main breathwork schools available like worldwide. And so obviously I read through it and I found the one that just suited me, that I felt was most relevant to me, to my needs, to what I believe in. And basically 3 days later, I was enrolled in my teacher training course, basically, and that's how it all began, you know? And it just I like to just put it very simply, like today I teach people to breathe correctly and optimally for life-changing health benefits. And that's basically what I do. So I teach individuals, I teach groups, I teach organizations. There's, you know, when it comes to organizations, there's a whole corporate wellness programs aspect. I've been collaborating with health clinics here in Hong Kong, working with leading health and fitness and yoga studios. And like, I think there's definitely like a trend right now, like people are really starting to become aware of this thing called breathing. Yeah. And that it seems simple, but yet very impactful. Yeah, I love that story, because there's also like you were introduced to little pieces of the breath work in previous stress scenarios. And then you had this introduction to then this more holistic approach, which really encompasses the entire technique. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like, as I said, like it's kind of like me sort of trying and testing out something. Yeah. And then becoming aware that there's actually a thing, that there's something official about it, you know. And as I said, a lot of you know, even organizations today are turning to breathwork as a employee kind of self-care tool, as an employee well-being tool and things. So it's very powerful, and it's real. And it's just very impactful. I find it very impactful. And I think that's why I love doing it, because I just see how positively it actually impacts people in their lives. Okay, so my next question. A lot of questions. Yeah. So my next question, which blew my mind when we talked about this, right? What is the secret? There's a secret relationship between screen time and breath work.
Yeah.
You want the secret.
Yeah, there is a secret relationship. And can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, again, you're going to have to stop me. So because now once you get me started on this topic, like it's just like a never ending. I'm like a machine. It just doesn't stop, right? So you're going to have to like pull time out.
No, keep going.
I'll try to be mindful as well. Okay. So the secret relationship. So probably what you're referring to, I assume, is this concept of screen apnea.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get into that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a concept called screen apnea, email apnea that I will explain, because it's really important. It's a dysfunctional breathing style, and it's really important, right? But I think before getting into that, because that's one particular type of dysfunctional breathing.
Okay.
I think it's important just to kind of step back and just go back to the foundations, the basics of breathing, like what is breathwork about and all that. And it's really, breathwork is about teaching you how to breathe, or teaching you how to relearn to breathe correctly and optimally. Okay. Because there is a right way to breathe, right? There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And what we know today is that the majority of people today, the majority of adults today, breathe incorrectly with dysfunctional breathing styles, right? This is a fact. And so first of all, it's important.
Let that sink in. A majority of us are not breathing.
Around 90% of people. So studies and research have shown that around 90% of people today breathe with dysfunctional breathing patterns, dysfunctional breathing styles, which is huge. It's huge, right? Now, why should people care about this? Well, simply because your breathing impacts your health, your mood, your emotions, your body, your longevity, everything. Your breathing is the core of everything we do, okay? And I like to explain it like this, that depending on how you're breathing and where you're breathing from in your body, the location of your breathing, the rate of your breath, you're basically hacking into, and you're stimulating your nervous system, your immune system, your digestive system, you're impacting your neck and shoulders, your sleep, your stress levels, your everything, like everything is impacted by the breath. And so this is so important to understand. So it's really key that we learn how to breathe correctly and optimally. Now, very quickly, you're probably asking, like, so what is this dysfunctional breathing style that most of us do? So today, most people are, upper chest breathers. Like if I asked you, Arcadia, take a big deep breath for me, like how would you do it? Like most people, when I ask, this is how I usually start off my classes, I'm like, okay, take a big deep breath. And people are like blowing up, moving up vertically on the inhale and then sinking back down vertically on the exhale, right? This is what we call a vertical breathing style, because we're kind of, using our upper chest. This is like the type of breath that you never want to take. You do not want to breathe this way because it's dysfunctional. Okay. Right? It's a dysfunctional breathing style. It's you're using and overusing the wrong muscles, like your neck and shoulder muscles that were never meant to be your primary breathing muscles, right? You're also cueing when you're breathing like this, you're naturally breathing like shorter, shallower breaths. Okay. So you're basically
that this is like a deep breath, but it's actually shallow.
It's short, shallow breathing. And just think about it. Under what circumstances do we turn to short, shallow breathing? Usually.
It's when you're stressed.
When we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're panic, when we go through a panic attack, when we hyperventilate and all that, we're like over breathing and we breathe like with our upper chest. So this is fine. Like if you're actually, I don't know, you're out hiking and you stumble upon a cobra, that's fine. But if this is your daily breathing style, when you're just sitting watching a Netflix movie, for instance, then you're basically putting your body in a constant state of fight or flight, of stress, right? You're stimulating your sympathetic nervous system, your stress response in your body, right? Meaning that your cortisol levels, like your stress hormones, go up, your blood pressure, your heart rate goes up, and your immune system goes down. So, right. So this is why, like, this is really a very typical dysfunctional breathing style. Okay. So what we want is actually to bring the breath down and start engaging our primary breathing muscle, which is, what is our primary breathing muscle, Arcadia?
Our diaphragm. Yay! I got it right.
Well done. Yeah.
That's so funny.
So, yeah.
The only reason why I knew that because I did a little session to prepare for TEDx, and they they did this exercise where like if you get before you go on stage and you get stressed, you should breathe, right?
Belly breathe, diaphragmatic breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. So so we want that's the thing. So we really want to breathe, engaging our primary breathing muscle, which is our diaphragm, our thoracic diaphragm. So it's about getting the breath down and breathing low and slow into what we call the belly area, the lower body area.
Okay.
So I would say that's the foundations of good breathing. Okay.
So what happens? So what happens when we're on our email or we're on our
Instagram?
Yeah.
So exactly. So this thing called screen apnea, also called email apnea. So it's a concept that was initially put forward by this lady called Linda Stone, who's an ex-tech executive and researcher. And in 2007, she researched this and discovered this term, this concept called screen apnea. Now, what is screen apnea? Screen apnea is basically the fact of unconsciously holding your breath. Unconsciously hold, so you're not aware of it, but you can basically stop breathing. Okay, you stop breathing while you're screening, while you're on a screen. And this can be whether you're texting, whether you're video gaming, whether you're emailing as well. Initially in fact, she discovered the email apnea because obviously she was in the corporate world, and so she discovered that nearly 80, again, figures show 80% of people experience email apnea. So every time they're emailing, they basically hold their breath unconsciously. They stop breathing. Okay.
I know
which is crazy.
When you told me about this, I started to become much more conscious about my breathing when I was on my screen. And I found that on Instagram, I was not I was holding my breath. Like when I would scroll, I'd be like, and then I would breathe when I would do a like. and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this.
I'm doing it. And we don't realize
it.
Exactly. It's unconscious. It's unintentional, but we do it. We hold our breath. And it's called screen apnea or email apnea, because it's like, when you go out to sea and you go underwater, you're holding your breath, but you're underwater, right? Whereas here, we're outdoors, we're out in the air, we have all the air that we want, but we're still holding our breath, right? So it's this concept where you unconsciously hold your breath throughout the day, usually when you're screening. So you're emailing, screening, video gaming, texting, doing something behind the screen. Okay. And more generally, it's usually when either stress, anxiety, or panic arise, or when you're in a deep state of concentration. Right? So typically you can imagine emailing. Maybe when you're emailing, maybe you're feeling stressed because you're emailing your boss, or you're emailing a colleague, or you're doing, or you're just so highly concentrated. If I think back to my kids, whenever I see them on their screens, gaming or something.
Gaming for sure.
It's crazy. They're just so concentrated. They're
forgetting.
Literally, they're forgetting. And literally, a bomb could probably explode just beside them. They wouldn't notice it. Because they're just so concentrated on their screen, and they just forget to breathe. And we just turn to the bad breathing habits then.
So how do you? So how do you guard against that?
Okay. Well, I think any changes we wish to make in our lives, whether it's, changing habits or behaviors or something, it all starts with one thing. And that's self-awareness. Okay. It's the self-awareness. And this is something I see, and I do a lot in my coaching, the professional coaching side of things as well. It's you need to start by becoming aware of what's going on. You need to catch yourself during the day doing those bad habits or bad behaviors that you want to change, right? So in this case, already being aware that there's this thing, actually this thing called screen apnea, that this thing called email apnea, that it probably, you're going to check in with yourself, a bit like you did, Arcadia. Right. Now that you know it, next time you're going to be on a screen, you're going to catch yourself hey, I was just holding my breath and I was just looking through Instagram. What happened there? Why am I doing that? So I think that's number one. It's just self-awareness. You obviously, once you're aware of it, you start catching yourself, and then when you catch yourself, you correct it. So what I usually say is to people, to my clients, is, well, when you catch yourself holding your breath throughout the day, at that moment, just take 3 low and slow breaths. Nice diaphragmatic. Take 3 nice, slow diaphragmatic breaths, just to like rebalance your body, reconnect to yourself again.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more you catch yourself and the more you correct yourself, the more you're actually starting to build a new habit, in fact.
Right.
A new habit. And also your body, you've got the whole body memory as well. Your body is kind of remembering that, oh, right, this is the way I'm supposed to be breathing. Yeah.
This is fascinating because one of the things that we talk about a lot for infinite screen time is being very purpose-driven and intentional about the types of screens that you're doing. So for instance, like if you know that you are going to be doing Instagram, right? You give yourself the permission to do Instagram, right? And, and you say, I'm going to be doing it for the next 20 minutes, right? And you give yourself the permission and you let yourself engage. And I would even add on to that and say, and you take that breath, right? For the beginning, yes, to start off this experience, right? Because I think if you fall into it, then you will be holding your breath, right? I use Instagram as an example for myself because that's where I found myself not breathing, like where I was like holding my breath, right? And I think
can I ask you, just because I think this is, I find it fascinating. When you started realizing that you were holding your breath while you were Instagramming, like what's going on? Like what is it that's causing the breath holding?
Well, because it was something about like, when you would post a post, right? Like on caption, and then you have to kind of put put it in, right? And then you've got to like, figure out the right text, and then you press the post button. That's when you go, right? Like
release, right?
Yeah. It was like, that was the rhythm of that release, right? And I think it was because I was creating something and I was like, oh, it needs to be right. Does it sound right? Did I tag the right people? Did I put the right hashtags? All of these things that you're thinking about when you're projecting your message, right? Yeah. And then the moment of that post is that release, right? And then I would go, right?
That is so interesting. Yeah. So in fact, what you're saying in your case, it's this high concentration. You're highly,
but that doesn't, if you're doing a caption and it's taking a long time, you're not breathing.
Yeah, then obviously.
I realized I was doing that. I had to catch my breath. I would go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what really affected my posture, what really affected my breath and my awareness of it was my posture, right? And so, I started to change that up, right? So, rather than like laying down on the couch or the bed and then like, what I mean? Like that, I would find myself like, just in a position where I wasn't being aware of my breath coming in and out, right? And so, that's something else that I also just like kind of decided to change, right? Which is if I'm scrolling on Instagram for that 30 minutes, I should be sitting upright, and then, it's interesting because, and then I'm also more, not only are you more aware of your breath, but you're also more aware of your time, right? Because, and you're just more mindful, right? About like, oh my gosh, I actually, my 20 minutes is now over, right? Kind of thing, as opposed to if I was like laying down, you'd fall into this like, this hole of, right, of doing something that you didn't intend to be doing, right? You're less mindful and purposeful about your screen time. Is one of the tenets for infinite screen time. So it's funny because like breath has become an indicator, right, about my mindfulness and purpose, for the screen time. And so, and so it's been an interesting practice.
That's so interesting. So I had to take a few notes just because there's so much like just popping up in my head while I hear you speak. I loved, you use the word intentional, and I love that. And I think this is like, I think that's definitely maybe the bridge, one of the bridges between like your activity, like your whole, screen time and breath work. It's like this intentional practice.
Yeah.
This is what we're getting to, we want there to be this intentional practice in order to be, just the better versions of ourselves.
Right.
And choose to do the things we do. Right.
Yes. And then I think that's the reason why we're doing this as, it's because we want to model and mold this behavior for our children, which brings me to my next question is that what's your experience with breathwork and kids, right? Like, have you had, I would love to know your insight on that, right? Like, how can we teach our kids at an early age? Because I do feel like it's, like we were saying, it's made an impact on my mindfulness, right? And so how can we, what do you see this breath work on kids? Like, how do you see that, manifesting itself?
It's it's huge. So this is like breathwork for kids is a huge topic, huge topic. And more I'm getting like parents and clients coming to me asking to deliver breathwork training for their kids.
Yeah. Which
is great because it just shows that people are actually finally understanding the impact of breathing and correct breathing on our lives. So obviously I have my own kids and guinea pigs at home that I'm constantly, trying out and testing, and they're I think they're so fed up with me, but they know how to breathe. Well, no, they know the theory of good breathing. Doesn't mean that they're applying it all the time, Okay, so a few things are going through my mind. So you mentioned posture just earlier on. This is key. Okay, posture is absolutely key. And we know that very often when we're seated, especially when we're, texting or using our phones or emailing, we're sitting badly. We have a poor posture. Okay. Now, what's the link with breath work is that posture affects our breathing. We know that posture affects 30% of our breathing ability, which is huge. Okay. Simply because obviously if we're sitting badly, if we're having bad posture, we're all like hunched over, we're constricting our whole like rib cage, where, when we're sitting like this, we're all usually quite tensed up and we're just, we're blocking up the utilization of our diaphragm. Okay. Which means that we kind of turn to this sort of upper chest, short, shallow breathing. We're not, we're underusing our full lung capacity, and so forth, right? So posture is really key. And again, when I see my own kids, especially my son, my 12-year-old son, like I freak out, I yell when I see him. Usually he's like this, like he's like this, so I go and I poke him in his back. I'm like, posture, sit up straight, man. Simply because I know that there's such a huge link between posture and bad breathing. Like poor posture equals bad breathing. Okay, so that's one thing. Sorry, what was your question? See, I'm just like
no. I mean, exactly. Like, what can we do?
Kids, what can we do? Yeah. Okay, so just from a very early age, like just teach them correct posture. Correct posture is key. I think also teaching kids just the foundations of good, healthy breathing. Yeah. Just understanding, getting them to understand, like what I teach in my adult classes, like upper chest versus, this, what we call the belly breathing. Belly breathing is, it's not really belly because we don't breathe into our belly. It's diaphragmatic breathing. So just getting kids from the youngest age to remember and to know, to be aware of the fact that, this is correct functional breathing. It's diaphragmatic breathing, and getting them to understand, like, hey, think a little bit about, your emotions, the link with your emotions. And when you get like scared or angry, how does your breathing change? And how does your breathing, like, how are you breathing when you're relaxed, when you're feeling good? And, just getting kids to check in with themselves and create this sort of self-awareness from a really early age.
That's awesome.
And there are some very simple exercises that you can do, just like even at bedtime, they're lying in their bed, you just get them to take like their favorite stuffy toy, their cuddly toy, put it on their belly, and you just practice a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing before going to bed. That's one exercise. Other exercises is really, especially with kids, is to focus on the exhale.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, you know, in your example of your own like screen apnea. You said, well, you were like, you know, busy doing your Instagram post. It's when you press that publish, like post, there's a release, and with the release comes the exhale, right? Because exhale has a sympathetic effect, meaning that it has a calming and soothing effect, right? So again, great exercises to practice with kids is any exercise that helps them to focus on exhaling. And it can be even, you know, make it fun. Use a balloon, blow up a balloon, blow into bubbles, you know, take a straw and make bubbles in water, you know, just help kids to really focus on a nice, long, controlled exhale. And this immediately will help them to calm down as well. So just like tons of things like that.
That's a great self-soothing technique that they can use for the rest of their life, like when they're at school or right before a test.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
Exactly. And as you just mentioned, I think, and one of the main purposes and objectives with breath work for kids is also helping them sort of to self-regulate, you know, self-regulate, like, you know, strong emotions, stress and anxiety. I mean, now we're in an era of stress. I mean, today, stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, it's like those are the diseases of the century, unfortunately. You know?
I mean, I'm stressed about my turkey, man.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, you know, your turkey, exactly.
I'm stressed about pulling turkey, man. I hope it's like gonna help you. Okay. I'm like in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, at 1 o'clock I have to brine the bird. Like we put this all on ourselves, right? And so
and we start so young, and it starts so young. You know, we start stressing out so young, and usually what happens when we stress is that we tense up, we suck it in, we gut suck, we you know, pull our bellies in, we you know, tense up our shoulders, and we turn to this bad breathing. And so breath work can help so much. It's so powerful, like as a self-care tool. It's a wonderful self-care tool. And like I like to say, it's the cheapest and it's free. and most effective self-care tool you can find on the market today, you know.
I love that. That's so true. That is so true. All right, so now we're going to go into what we call the lightning round in our interview. There's a set of questions that I like to ask all of my guests. It's always very interesting to hear because part of the one of the mantras of Infinite Screen Time is to talk about the diversity of how we are interacting with our technology, and particularly in our families. And so this is what this lightning is about. Okay. It doesn't have to be as lightning as you think. It's just similar questions that all of my guests have answered. So number one, what are your essential apps on your phone? What are the apps on your phone that you could not live with? You could live without. You could not live without.
I could not live without. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I do want to just warn everyone, and, you know, including you, Arcadia, I am so clueless when it comes to technology. I'm such like a non-techie geek. Okay. So the essential apps, I don't have many apps. I mean,
there's no judgment here, by the way, right? There's no judgment.
No judgment. We're very kind and okay. No, I just have the basic, like, you know, shopping apps. Obviously here in Hong Kong, I have the usual air quality apps. Some newsletters. Obviously the social media. And you know what? That's an interesting one. You know what I did with my the 3 social media little buttons? So the Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Yes. It was after a quite interesting coaching session, actually. Obviously, as a coach, I get coached as well. You know, it's part of my training. One of my coaching sessions was all about, you know, managing my own technology and, you know, being able to model it. You spoke yourself about modeling it in front of my kids, you know, this healthy, intentional kind of technology use, right? And so one of the things that came out and that I kind of implemented for myself was I actually took the social media buttons and placed them at the end of my phone. Yeah. You know, like how you have like different pages and you kind of scroll through your phone. Yeah. And before, obviously, I had them on my first page. Yeah. So I would literally just take my phone and they were visible, just there looking at me,
Yeah.
like screaming to be pressed.
Especially
right?
when they're like, oh, 10, you know, like it's got
they're
the little,
there.
yeah, right, little tag.
The red button telling
Yeah.
you like, hey, you've got a new message. Like someone likes you. Someone is, you know, wants to be friends with you. So you're like, oh, this is so cool. And I just realized how unhealthy that had become for me. That it just became like non-stop just checking.
Yeah.
So I actually, that was like my little trick that has worked quite well.
That's awesome.
So like by not seeing them, I managed to go a little less. Like it actually takes an effort for me to have to go on Instagram and Facebook, which is good.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great tip. I actually, there's a blog post that I wrote about that where Marie Kondo is. Do you love?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Marie Kondo fan, right? Okay. So I wrote this blog post about how to Marie Kondo your cell phone. Yeah,
that's what you see, that there's a thing to what I did.
Yeah,
that's exactly. That's so interesting.
I'll send that to you, and you can take a read. In fact, I'll put it in the comments of the Facebook Live, because I do think it's a really interesting concept, right? That you can organize your life.
So interesting.
Yeah, organize your life by organizing your apps. Okay, so
amazing.
What about? So we talked about your essential apps. What about your kids' essential apps? What do you think their their essential apps are? What's the thing that they could not live without?
I know they're just into games. It's just gaming stuff, right?
What's Edward?
You're gonna ask me which ones? Yeah, which ones? You see, I trust them. I trust him. You see, this is I consider myself pretty cool right now, because I realize that actually, as I don't even know. No, I do have this. I do have the screen time app. You know, where I check his screen time. I do that, but I don't even know what's on his phone, because I trust him. I do trust him. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I know he's into
very trustable.
Yeah, it's about empowering. It's what we do in coaching. It's like you empower. You empower people. You know, you believe in people. You know, people are resourceful. So our kids are resourceful. So it's about. I want to show him that I trust him, and he can be trusted. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, so he's got I think he's playing this one game, is Brawl Star, something like that.
Yeah,
and it's like this. And the reason I actually approve of it is because it's he's actually playing with all his friends like across the globe.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just find this a wonderful way for him to connect, to keep connected with his friends.
Yeah.
And so that's how he sold it to me anyway. And I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, you should definitely be doing this, you know.
I love how he sold it to you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what about Estelle?
So Estelle, so funny enough, Estelle, so she's 9, and she's the less trustable one.
There's always one.
Oh yeah, there's always one, and it's her. So I will, if I'm not there, and I, again, like I really want to try to be that cool, empowering kind of coaching type of mom. But I know with her, if I just leave her at it, I will find her, you know, YouTubing some completely crazy thing, like with a language that she doesn't even understand, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like this is not healthy for you, like this I'm not okay with. So yeah, so she has a few basic games, but nothing, you know, nothing huge.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Estelle and my youngest Zoe are friends, and I'm curious because like what Zoe is same thing, YouTube. And then she'll be
crazy.
And then I'd be like, what are you watching? That is the strangest thing I've ever seen.
Isn't it?
You know, and what is it entertaining? And she'll tell you, and you're like, okay. All right.
It's like the last time I saw her, and it's like she loves watching other people assemble or reassemble,
crafting.
Like crafting, or even just like a Barbie house or the Barbie camper.
Yeah.
And you just have this like 10-minute video of someone reassembling the Barbie camper, and she's like, this is amazing. I'm like, oh my goodness, like imagine what this is doing to your brain. You know?
You know, the analogy that I like to use, particularly with those types of videos, right, is that they're essentially playing with somebody, right? They're playing, you know, that's you know, they're in this experience where they're playing with somebody, and that personality that they're seeing online is interesting to them. And there's drama in that. And there's drama in the fact that like, oh, look, you got this cool new toy and now you're going to be putting it together. There's a drama of like, can you be able to do it? Is it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was recently talking with another parent about this, and she, you know, we're like, it's kind of like, you know, when we watch our soaps, right? Like, it seems a little bit innate, right? But there's these like very fabricated storylines, right? And, you know, you can totally predict it, and that's what's happening, you know? And so it's always the same. It's like random crafting videos, right? Of like making things, right? And I was like, are you gonna make that? And she's like, no, I'm just watching them make it.
Okay, that reassures me. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so I love this question. What's the last thing new or skill that you have learned?
Oh, wow. Like technology-wise, or just
anything.
Oh my goodness. I'm
sure there's
there's so much.
I know there's so much, right?
I'm just constantly just living, like going out to the world and searching and curious and just doing so many different things. But what have I done lately that's new? That is such a good question.
Oh, maybe something with Victor. I'm assuming every day is something new. That one.
Oh yeah, he's such a sweetie.
Yeah.
What's something I've learned? That's such a good question, Arcadia, and I can't even answer it.
Well, okay,
just constantly,
yeah, I know. So we're in this.
Let me think of it.
Yeah,
let me think of it. I mean,
let me know.
Yeah.
And the reason why I love asking this question is because, again, being reflective about how we are always
so important.
Yeah,
it's all a learning.
Okay,
but you know, sometimes I think, you know why it's tricky. It's because we're on this constant like learning journey, you know. It's like this constant reflection, as you self-reflection. You're learning, you're doing something, you're kind of introspecting and saying, okay, so what did I learn from that and all that. And when you ask me the question, I feel like it has to be something huge, you know. It has to be like, I just started, I don't know, learning to play the flute, or I just started playing, I don't know, whatever sport that I've never played before, you know. But it doesn't have to be that. It can just be this ongoing continuous learning, right?
And I think that's also the reason why our kids are watching those YouTube videos.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
Yeah, they're learning about how things are constructed and how things are put together, and they're, you know, and it's an opportunity for them to explore that, right? Without a huge commitments, right? Without this like, oh my God, I have to learn it through a book, right? Kind of thing, right? And so again, and that's why I asked that question, because it's also, when it comes to technology, there's a lot of opportunity, right? To like learn new.
There is.
Okay, so in my course, I have this rubric about describing your relationship with screen time with your family. And I have to apologize, because this rubric I use is very American, because I use American cartoons that I used to have when I was growing up. So you might know some of these cartoons, you might not, right? So how would you describe your relationship with your kids when it comes to screen time? Are you number one, like the Flintstones? Have you ever heard of the Flintstones? They're an American cartoon, and they're all in the Stone Ages, right? So we're both in the Stone Ages. And this is why I'm talking, this is why I asked this question, because we're all diverse. We're all super different, right? And we're also changing, right? And so, are you the Simpsons? Do you know the Simpsons, of course? Bart Simpson?
Yes, of course, of course.
Where your kids are a little bit more clever than you, right? Like Bart Simpson is clearly smarter than Homer Simpson. Or are you like Peabody and Sherman? Do you know this cartoon?
No, I don't know them. I don't know them.
The Peabody and Sherman is a dog. He's a dog, but he's very, very smart. And he's adopted a young boy whose name is Sherman. And so the parent is smarter, right, than the child on the technology, but you know what, you're still a dog. So, and then the Jetsons, you're all from the future. The Jetsons is an old 70s cartoon.
Okay.
So which one are you? How would you describe your relationship with technology with your kids?
In my family, probably somewhere between The Simpsons and the third one that you mentioned. You know, like there are sometimes like they impress me because they can do stuff that I can't. I'm like, where did you learn that? Like how? You're only 13, you're only 9. Like, how is this possible? You know, I've been doing this my whole life. And I would say somewhere in between there.
I like that.
I think, you know what? Yeah, go on.
No. So I actually, you'll appreciate this because you're such like a business nerd too. So in my course, you take this little survey, it's like supposed to be fun, right? And
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun. It's kind of like a BuzzFeed survey, right? And then I plot you on a 4, like on the x-axis and the y-axis on a 4 quadrant, where like Simpsons, like high technology, high kids, technology, you're at the Jetsons. And so you get a little dot on your on the 4 quadrants. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that.
That's so, I love that. Of course.
So you're a gradation.
So
yes. So you do get to see yourself as a gradation, right? And then after the course, you rate yourself again and see if whether or not you've changed.
That's so interesting. You know what I'm thinking? I think my family would be such a good case study for you, Arcadia. Definitely. Oh my goodness. Like there's so much work to do. But I love, and I'm coming back to this notion of intentionality.
Yes.
The thing, I love that. And I think I realize, like, as I'm speaking to you, and I know all the amazing work that you do when it comes to like this, your infinite screen time platform and community that you've created. I realize that I today, like when it comes to my kids' screen time, I feel that I do have the wrong approach for sure.
Why do you say that?
And what?
Who knows? I mean, there's no wrong, right? But there's
but it's not constructive. It's not a constructive one, right? Probably with my son, with my 12-year-old Edouard, it's so more or less okay, but it's the 9-year-old daughter, Estelle. Like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of work to do there. And I need to, I want to think about this some more.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, no, you've kind of planted something there.
Yeah, I think your family would be fantastic because you guys are open to exploring that change, right? And so, and then talk and being, and as a parent, you're willing to say like, oh, actually, I need to shift my idea, right? And and I think that's where infinite screen time really helps, because of the fact that you are shifting your connotations about what screen time and technology is, right?
Yeah.
And then fundamentally, it's all about having conversations about the technology.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. No, for sure.
But okay, let's get back to breath work too, because I think there's a lot of commonality about that, because it's that awareness, right? That is what, is what will make you stronger, right? And better. And like what, in your words, be the best version of yourself, right? And so what's the one thing that you want listeners to walk away with from this interview and our time together?
Okay. I want people to start breathing correctly and optimally. And just remember that let's make it 3 words. Okay. Functional breathing is breathing nose, slow, and low.
Okay.
So breathing nose, nasal breathing always, as opposed to mouth breathing. Nose, slow. So you want to slow down your breathing, okay? As opposed to this fast breathing. You want to slow down your breathing, slow down the cadence of your breathing, and you want to breathe low. So nice, instead of high, you want to breathe low into the diaphragm. So functional breathing is breathing nose, slow, and low. If you can already start doing that, then you're on a great start of your own optimal breathwork journey.
I just put those 3 words into the chat room, right? So that
just breathe nose, slow, and low.
Yeah, it's very, very easy to remember. And how can people learn more about you?
Yay! So I've got a website, Liza Rosen. Oh goodness, what is it now? LizaRosenCoaching.com. You see, I don't even know my own website. This is great. Isn't it? Okay. But otherwise, I think the easiest way is just to connect, to connect on Instagram.
Yeah.
Which is Liza Rosen Coaching, if I'm not.
It is actually all.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
So just connect with me. Just connect with me on Instagram, and there I usually share regular kind of updates on stuff like programs, workshops, tips and tricks on healthy breathing, coaching topics. I'm also planning in the next few months to launch a online breathwork kind of program.
Oh, fantastic.
So that you can learn optimal breathing anywhere, anytime, any place, wherever you are in the world. So again, just connect with me on Instagram and you'll see all the information there.
Oh, we'll have to, I didn't know that you were doing that online course. That's pretty exciting. We'll have to talk about that because we did. Yeah. As you know, I did that last year as well. It was such an experience.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I know. And you did it so successfully. It was amazing the way
I definitely
managed those 3 sessions.
Yeah. I definitely learned a lot about how to do an online course and what worked well, and so, but I think
we'll connect.
Yeah, I think that this is a perfect topic for that. And so,
yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for listening. And,
thank you.
I think we had like at most 10 people listening in, which is awesome. And then we'll have thousands of more listening afterwards. And so for those of you who were live, thank you for tuning in. And it's been an amazing hour. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise. And I can't wait to see you later. Bye.
Thank you, Arcadia. Thanks for having me. It was a great chat. Yeah, I love what you do. I really love what you do. And you know what? And good luck for your upcoming TEDx talk. So Arcadia is going to speak on the 10th of December.
And I will be breathing. I'm learning this.
You'll be breathing right.
Like right before I get onto that big stage. And so it's something
so exciting.
And we're all going to be
so exciting for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're awesome. Such an awesome mom.
All right. Oh, wait. Before I actually almost forgot. I have to get back here and plug next week. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me here on Facebook Live. And as you know, you can come join my mailing list. And I do a newsletter every other week, and everything from last week I talked about Squid Game, talked about Facebook, sort of well-researched ideas about how to manage very specific ideas around screen time in our home. But you will miss out on that unless you join my mailing list. So please do that. And follow me on Instagram. Here is a QR code, but you can find me on Instagram at Infinite Screen Time. And then also I have a wonderful Facebook group. Liza, I think you're in my Facebook group, right? We do regular content. We do tips. I do a Q&A, and it's a lot of, and I have this thing called Monday, which I will plug because we just talked about this for the last hour. On Monday, I always send out these messages, mindful screen time Mondays, right? Where we're like, how can we be intentional about our screen time? And I do reminders every Monday. So it's a really great little way to sort of connect with the group of people who are also following Instagram. I'm following Infinite Screen Time. Okay, and so then next week is my third guest, and we're going to be talking with Shalini, who is amazing. I don't know, Liza, if you've ever met Shalini. She is a parent effectiveness training coach, and so there's this amazing certified parenting coaching system from Gordon Parenting that's from the US. And she is a coach that teaches here in Hong Kong, parent effectiveness training. And her kids are now all grown. And she's got so much wisdom about parenting through each one of these phases and stages. And it's really about this open communication that we're talking about. And so we're going to be talking about that. I have met her and we've coached together in the past, and she's so inspirational, so just filled with wisdom. from her own experiences and from all the various parents that she has coached in the past. And it's pretty surprising what she says about what parenting is really about. And so we'll talk about that next week. Same bat channel, same bat time, but it's on December 2nd on Thursday. And so come join us. And that's it. Thanks again. And I will see you guys. I see everyone next week. Thanks again, Lisa. And I'll sign off.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.